So, what if I told you that some of the world's best hackers are actually the good guys? That they're hired not to cause chaos, but to stop it before it ever starts? That's really what ethical hacking is all about. It's not the crazy, frantic typing you see in the movies. Nah, it's a super disciplined strategy for finding the weak spots in digital fortresses so we can make them stronger. Let's get into it. And this quote right here, this is the core idea behind everything we're about to talk about. If you want to build an unbreakable castle, you absolutely have to learn to think like the person who wants to knock it down. It's all about using an attacker's mindset to build a better defense. This is the heart and soul of penetration testing. Okay, so first things first, we gotta understand who the players are. The easiest way to think about it is like the Force in Star Wars, you know? You've got your Jedis and you've got your Siths. Both sides are incredibly powerful. They often have the exact same skills, but what makes them different is their intention, what they choose to do with that power. So on one side, you have the White Hats. These are our Jedis. They're the ethical hackers, and their whole motivation is to protect and serve. They find the cracks in the armor so we can fix them. And on the other side, you've got the Black Hats, the Siths. They use those exact same skills to exploit those same cracks, but for their own personal gain. So you see, it's not about skill, it's about motive. And it all comes down to one absolutely critical thing. So what is that one thing? Well, it's all about the rules of engagement. This is the bright, uncrossable line in the sand that separates a security pro from just another criminal. It's the entire legal and ethical foundation this whole industry is built on. So let's really nail this down. What is it? What's that one single thing that makes someone a hero in this story and someone else the villain? It's this one word: authorization. Seriously, without explicit written permission, an ethical hack is just, well, it's a crime. Authorization is the legal get-out-of-jail-free card that turns a highly illegal act into an incredibly valuable security service. So permission isn't just important, it is everything. And that formal permission comes in a document called the Rules of Engagement, or ROE for short. You can think of it as the official battle plan that everyone agrees to before a single keyboard is touched. It's a contract that protects both the tester and the client by setting crystal clear boundaries. And a good ROE is super detailed. It defines the exact scope, like which systems are fair game and which ones are totally off limits. It lays out the timeline. It spells out which attack methods are okay to use. And it even has a list of emergency contacts just in case something goes sideways. Remember, this isn't about causing chaos. It's a controlled surgical operation. All right, so with the rules in place, it's time to pick the mission. And, not all penetration tests are the same. The kind of test you run really depends on one key variable. How much information does the ethical hacker get before they start? And that brings us to the three main flavors. First up is a white box test. This is where the hacker gets everything. We're talking network diagrams, source code, the whole shebang. It's like a deep internal checkup. Then you've got a gray box test. Here, they get a little bit of info, maybe a standard user's login, to see what damage a regular employee could do. And finally, my favorite, the black box test. The tester gets almost nothing, just a company name. This is the ultimate simulation of a real-world attack from a complete outsider. But no matter which mission you choose, ethical hacking is never, ever random. It's a disciplined, methodical process. The best way to picture it is like a funnel or an upside-down triangle. You start really wide, gathering tons of general info, and then you slowly narrow your focus, zeroing in on specific weaknesses until you find a way in. This whole process usually breaks down into four main phases. First is reconnaissance. You're basically a detective, gathering public info without touching the target. Next up is scanning, where you start actively probing the system, kind of like rattling doorknobs and checking for open windows. Third is exploitation. This is the fun part where you actually try to get in. And finally, post-exploitation. Once you're inside, you figure out what you can do, what you can access, and you document every single step for the final report. Which brings us to the grand finale. Because, the whole point of a penetration test isn't just to shout, "I'm in." It's to provide actual value. And that final deliverable, the report, is without a doubt the most important part of the entire job. And this quote just hits the nail on the head. You could be the most brilliant hacker in the world, but if your report is a confusing mess, then the whole test was a waste of everyone's time and money. The way you communicate your findings is just as important as the findings themselves. The report is the product.
A really fantastic report has to do two things at once. For the executives, it needs a clear, simple summary that talks about business risk. But for the tech teams, it needs to be a detailed playbook. Here's the flaw, here's how bad it is, and here are the exact steps you need to take to fix it. It has to work for everyone.
So what's the big idea here? The main takeaway? Ethical hacking isn't really about breaking stuff. It's about understanding how things can be broken. It's about taking the tools and the mindset of an attacker and using them for good, to find and patch up those weaknesses before the real bad guys do. And that leaves us all with one last, pretty important question to think about. If your defenses were put to the test tomorrow, who would win? Thanks for tuning in.